Welcome, Minnesota homeschoolers, to Minutes with MACHE. My name is Ruth Brinker, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts for Minutes with MACHE, Molly Ophoven and Seann Dikkers. But today we're doing something special. We're kind of turning the tables on Seann. Seann is MACHE's executive director, and we haven't really formally introduced him, live on camera. You've probably seen some articles from Seann in our Homeschool Now Minnesota magazine or in our e-newsletter, but we want to have you see his face and get to know him. So we just want to chat with you, Seann. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and putting up with Molly's and my questions. So we're glad you're here. I just want to first ask you, so you're a homeschool dad and you and your wife, Stephanie, homeschool. What was it about your homeschool journey that made it unique?
I was a homeschool dad. Our kids are both graduated from high school now. Katie's thinking about what college to get into. Grant is finishing college. He's right on the end of that. But I don't think you're really ever done because, it's when you homeschool all the way through, it's a different family culture. And we saw that with our friends and family, you really establish a different kind of relationship with your kids. And at this point, I feel like I have two of my best adult friends are my kids. And there isn't kind of that gap between parents and children that come out at the other end. So what was unique about our journey? We didn't expect to homeschool. I was a public school teacher and we lived in St. Paul and we went to visit the elementary school for Grant and we came home in tears. We were like, we can't put our 5-year-old child into that environment. And I won't say the name of the school, but it wasn't a good environment. It was just something where we weren't trying to segregate our kids or move them out or anything like that. But we just said, we can't in good conscience as Christian parents put a 5-year-old into that. We just can't do it. So for us, it was visiting the school, and then we were in panic mode. We were single income home. We couldn't afford private schools, but we called them and asked, do you have scholarships? We considered putting them into a Catholic school, and we're not Catholics. And so we were looking at anything. And then Steph's sister, who was a homeschool mom, said, Steph, you can homeschool. And Steph was really anxious about that. She wasn't a public school teacher. She wasn't confident about it. So between Margaret and myself, we convinced Steph, you can do this and we're here to help you and we'll be with you. And there's this organization called MACHE. We can go down to the conference every year for professional development. We can help out with events that they have. We were able to connect in with a support group. Heck, in St. Paul, there's tons of support groups. So that, if our kids wanted to play sports, there's sporting leagues they can play in. And so we quickly connected, quickly got looped in. What was unique about our homeschool journey? I love how we structured our day. I just think it was, and I could see it happen. I could see the difference in my kids year by year as we just did things differently and we unschooled. We kind of detached from what the world says school has to look like and started to do education the way that education's been done for 6,000 years, where parents teach their children the skills they need to survive in the world. And we would do the basic skills test every year. So we got a good statistical measure of where they were at in different subjects. But we would get up in the morning and do book work, right? We kind of get through all the subjects in the morning from say 9 to 12 o'clock. And then after 12 o'clock, it was passions and interests. So it was time to go do the stuff we read about. So if they're reading about bees, we would set up a time to go visit with a beekeeper and tour how they make honey. And it was amazing because every time the kids would pick up a book, they'd be thinking, where do we get to go today? And what do we get to do? And Steph would go to the library and she would get a basket full of books that were around the topics they'd be doing in the morning. So in the afternoons, the kids could just go to the book basket and find books they liked and they would read all afternoon. And I can say now that my kids are adults, it was the things they did in the afternoon that became the things they're doing for a living. And it was really amazing how that happens. But when you stop calling it school and you just start calling it interests, or we use the term quest because I was a games researcher at the time, but we'd say, here's some things that you can do for quests. And I would come home from work and say, I have a quest for you, Grant. I want you to find this thing. And I would hide something in a spot in the yard and give clues that had to do with science and things like that. So we had a lot of fun with that. We had a crafting closet or like a hobbies closet. So Steph and I would go to Hobby Lobby. We would go to Home Depot. We would go to Games by James, and we would just fill that closet every quarter with all new stuff. So there would be art supplies, paper, because I always was jealous as a social studies teacher of what the art teacher had in their classroom. Just baskets of stuff that you could do things with and little hobby kits and whatever. So we would throw in new stuff into the kind of that closet. And after lunch, they could run to the closet and go find something they wanted to do. And we found that choice and education went together so well, it affected my research and the work I was doing over at the university. So for me, that was just a unique thing about our homeschool is I could kind of test things out on my kids and see their reaction to it and then go research it and then publish papers on it. And to me, that was kind of unique. And my kids still call themselves my guinea pigs till today. Because, if kids aren't engaged with the material, they're not learning. And we know that in the research world, and homeschoolers they just do it so much better than what you can do when you're dealing with 30 kids at the same time. Because when you're dealing with 30 kids, you're not going to hit many of their interests, maybe a couple. But you're always going to have kids that are disinterested. And a lot of the work is to get them engaged in things. And when you're just dealing with your kids, you can set up that engagement thing weeks ahead of time. In 3 weeks, we're going to go visit the firehouse because Grant was into fire trucks. So in 3 weeks, we got that coming. So put it on your schedule, and that's what we're doing. So I don't know, for us, I think the unique part of the homeschooling is also indicative of every homeschool parent I've ever talked to. You customize it for your kids, and you find out what they're passionate about, what they want to do. I know in the Ophoven family, it was music, and right, Molly? And
yeah, it was.
So you go and do that. My son started doing electric guitar at age 12. He was in the church worship team by the end of that year. And we would tell him, look, Grant, if you do anything for an hour a day for 3 years, you're going to be competent at it. If you do more than an hour a day for 3 years, you're going to be excellent at it. So if there's anything in this world you want to be good at, take your afternoons and start organizing and committing your time to it. So, as a 12-year-old kid, he's in there banging out stuff on the guitar every single day. So he would work hours on getting ready for church worship on Sunday. But he was, then, the adults would be like, this 12-year-old kid just banged out a solo. And it's like, well, yeah, he's a homeschooler. He's got 5 hours a week to work on that solo. So, and I still remember You Won't Relent was the first song where he just, like, everybody in the room was going, holy moly. And we felt so blessed by that because that's God giving our family a chance to do it. So, and I'll say this too. I know I'm talking too long, but I think what was one of the things that's unique about our family and one of the myths that's out there is homeschooling is only for people who can afford it. And we couldn't afford it. We just weren't in that mode. We were a single income home on a public teacher salary. We had to make sacrifices. And I think sometimes that's nice if you're in a family where one income really just kind of provides. But we made a decision that we weren't ever going to get ahead, and we were okay with that. So we were a one-car family for 12 years. We lived in a lower end income neighborhood for 12 years. And by the way, loved our neighbors and got to be part of that community too. So we felt like every family has to make decisions, and they're not all about how you school your kids. Some of those other decisions outside of homeschooling have to do with your capacity to homeschool. And for us, we made a lot of big financial choices that directed us on a path where we could do what was most important in our family, which was to raise our kids and disciple them ourselves. So, and we didn't come into it willingly, but when we went into it, we went all in. And we said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do it right. Because we wanted to have money to go to the conference every year. And we wanted to be able to do those things. So, and all of our family vacations became homeschool vacations. Like at some point, we're double dipping. So we did a lot of vacations in the area. We started hitting all the state parks, and we still want to get our little plaque from the state park kind of thing, but you got some long trips to do it. So a lot of our vacations were local. I would travel for research because I'd speak at different conferences. We'd bring the kids along. So and with homeschooling, we were flexible on our schedule. We could just do that. So instead they would say, well, we'll buy your plane ticket to get you out here. And I'd like, no. You'll pay for my gas money, because I'm going to drive to get out there. So when you drive, we could just pack the kids in the car. We had a hotel room with the conference, and they were able to see the country over that time. So I think that was kind of a unique thing about what we did too. So, and of course, Steph would plan that weeks ahead of time. So we'd start learning about Arizona and the state of Arizona and the culture and the animals. So when we got there, she'd say, do you want to go on a road trip to the desert? Because they didn't really want to come to my conferences. So they would take that whole time and do like little homeschool adventures out there, and they'd have little quests like, I would like to find a lizard tail. Can you find that for me? And so they'd be out searching the desert for lizard tails and whatnot. So those are the kinds of things we did in our family.
Cool.
Great. So fun to hear about it. And yeah, no two homeschools are alike, are they, Ruth? There's just so much variety.
There are.
So moving right along, Seann, now we'd like to know more a little bit about what you're doing for MACHE, and actually maybe something you can share that you're working on right now.
Right now I'm working on Minutes with MACHE. And, I think this is a really neat thing because MACHE has traditionally put articles and print media out. We do our magazine, we do those amazing email blasts and the newsletter, and a lot of that's kind of print media. And what we're finding right now is we're in a digital age. And with millennial homeschoolers, they will watch YouTube channels and videos. And so we're putting out these kind of short 10-minute videos with Minutes with MACHE. And that's to meet the need kind of these homeschoolers. Because in Minnesota with the COVID stuff, we have about 10% more homeschoolers in the state than we used to do. MACHE has seen an uptick in membership over what we had last year on any given month. And so we're really trying to give people resources that they can use. And if this video is a resource for anyone, that's just a blessing. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to bless other homeschool families because we've been blessed first. So other things we're working on, we're really trying to figure out a way to make the conference happen. We don't want to cancel 2 years in a row. We know that might mean moving to a different location. It might mean a smaller venue. But MACHE used to do their convention in a church. And we used to do a smaller venue. And even before that, MACHE was just a couple families at a dining room table. So if you look at the history of MACHE, we're going to have to go back to our roots a little bit. And we're going to have to look at how we need to do things kind of within the resources that God's given us. And we've been extremely blessed. Last year when we canceled the convention, there was a large number of families that just said, just keep the convention registration. And that saved MACHE. I mean, really, we had financial obligations with the magazine and with our lobbying efforts down at the Capitol, which I think is one of the most important functions of MACHE. We work hand in hand with HSLDA. They deal with things at the federal level. MACHE is here to help protect homeschooling at the state level. So a lot of times people join an organization because of what they'll get out of it. And really with MACHE, for my wife and I, we're like, no, we're just going to give them our annual membership because they protect homeschooling. And that's the organization that does that in the state of Minnesota. And we want to protect what they're doing because we want lobbyists at the Capitol. And there are people that would like to not see homeschooling in the state. And homeschooling is not that, I mean, it was made legal in Minnesota in 1987. So it is a culture shift for our state. And there are people that don't like that culture shift. Frankly, because homeschoolers are kicking butt over traditional school models. Honestly, the results, if you read kind of Brian Ray's research that he's put out, the results are phenomenal. So, but the question was, what are we doing here in MACHE? And I'm straying off topic. I think that we're looking at tiered membership. We want a way for people to be part of MACHE and part of our mailing list and connected that can't afford to be members. We do have families that are financially strapped, and that membership fee is just something they can't afford. So we're looking for a way to kind of have that kind of a membership. And we're also looking for a way for people to kind of be members, but at a different kind of level because they do want to be more involved in the movement. So we want to be able to have resources for them. So we're looking at tiers on how to do that. And we're hoping that by convention time in April, we'll have those tiers ready to go so that people can be members of MACHE, but there might be different levels at which they partner with us and connect with us. My wife is one of the people she was like, how can I help out? And I'm like, support groups. We need to have regular professional development for our support group leaders because we'll have moms that start a support group and to get new ideas for what to do in their support group, to get support and encouragement because they're taking on an extra chore for all those other families to benefit from. So at MACHE, we really want to support group leaders that want to be connected with other support group leaders. So she's starting to do kind of regional Zoom calls where those people can meet each other and share ideas of what they're doing. So we're trying to set that up to where we're doing about 4 of those a year for each region of the state of Minnesota. But she's got to update the email list. We got to connect it. So if anybody's listening to this and you haven't updated your support group contact information, get onto the MACHE website and update that information so we can connect with you. We can have you communicating with other support group leaders and we can support what's going on locally. And I know for our family, every Friday they would go out and be with the support group. So it was just something where those students could make friends, they could connect with people. And we have hundreds of people in Minnesota that aren't connected to a support group. And that might be because as a family, they don't want to, but we don't want it to be that they want to and they can't find one. So I love what Doyle's done on the website with the support group finder and the map, and you can click on things and see what kind of group it is. But we really want to amplify that and make a way for people to connect to those families even easier. And then as always, lobbying efforts. We have a legislature that likes to pick up topics whenever they feel like it and start writing things. So we have Julie Johnson down at the Capitol. We're looking for ways to kind of find people that want to partner with her and be mentored by her, because we want to have more than just one person kind of doing that lobbying group at the Capitol. And when we have Capitol days, like homeschool families show up and they're amazing and they're fun days, but the Capitol's not allowing large groups with COVID. So we're kind of praying about what that might look like and how to connect people, because we do want homeschool families that are interested in civics to have those opportunities and to be able to connect and communicate. And we actually have work to do at the Capitol. We have lobbying, and we want to make sure that our homeschool friendly legislators have the information they need in order to, have conversations. And homeschool not friendly legislators, we want to extend the grace and the love of the homeschool community so they become a little more amenable to protecting homeschool rights.
Well, it sounds like we are keeping you quite busy. Just to piggyback.
Let me say this, MACHE is amazing because we got all these families. So you don't, frankly, it's a really kind of a doable thing. And it's because of an army of homeschool volunteers that believe in what we're doing and they believe in the mission. So in everything I just mentioned, there's other people carrying some of the weight on that and doing some of that work. And I think that for the homeschool listeners out there, volunteering MACHE, we can start you out with really small things, but as people get involved, the community here is really pretty phenomenal. A lot of like-minded parents doing what they're doing because they've been called to by the Lord.
But that said, Seann, you have hit the ground running, and we are so thankful and grateful for all you're doing. So
Praise the Lord.
We are. So if you do want to volunteer and work with people like Seann, maybe Molly or I, we do have a lot of committed volunteers. And as one of them, I know one of my favorite things is just getting to work with other homeschool parents. So I can say this truthfully, like I have gained a great friendship with Molly. And so it's fun to get to do things with Molly. And I look forward to like, we get to work. And
yeah, exactly.
Which means we catch up and talk and work. So we enjoy that. So just to piggyback on the support group, Seann, you had mentioned that people could go on the website. So if you're not sure what our website is, it's www, I hope that was 3 W's, .mache.org. And you can go under groups and you can find a support group in your area. Or as Seann said, if you are in a support group and you need to update your information so we can contact you, please do that. So that's where you can go, is to mache.org. And so Seann, looking to the future as executive director, how does the future look for MACHE?
Well, I've been trying to learn the history. The past and the present and the future are in God's hands because he's on the throne. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've shared with the board and with folks in MACHE is that where we go in the future has to do with the doors that the Lord opens and the places he wants us to be. So the Bible says we should be content in when things are going well, and we should be content when things aren't going well. And the Lord's in control of all of it. So with COVID, of course, that's been a tough season for MACHE, but it has really helped, I think, and you can pipe in on this, but we've been able to say, what are we here for? Why do we exist? And what's essential to what MACHE does? And let's get it down to that core because we have to. So I think that's been really pretty amazing. So while we've seen membership go up, we've seen our ability to serve that membership be kind of strained. So when you say, what's the future of MACHE? I pray that the future of MACHE is a COVID-free culture returning to America. I really do. Homeschoolers, we love to meet. We love to connect. The socialization in the homeschool community is phenomenal. So we want to be able to have graduation and we want to be able to have our convention. And, MACHE, we would do regional kind of workshops for families and parents and how to homeschool workshops. So we've had to kind of shut a lot of those down, but that's looking kind of backwards. Looking forward, I see that MACHE is moving into the digital age. So we are looking at and constantly making some upgrades to the website. You'll continue to see those happening. The MACHE store and being able to get resources to MACHE families is something that we've been working on and that I'm excited about. And I really see the idea that what we're learning about the convention right now is that we might want to be having smaller events around the state to serve more and more of the population of the state of Minnesota. So part of what's going on with the network building with support groups is when we do that, we also have regional leadership. So, because when we have these meetings, the support groups say, it would be really nice if you did more stuff out by us. And to do that stuff out by us, we need help finding a location. We need help with setting up and taking down. We're a homeschool organization and we need to be able to connect and do that. So part of the vision of networking those groups is to move towards those kinds of smaller events around the state. And part of the vision of these kinds of digital conversations is that we have a YouTube channel that you can binge watch. Like literally there's hundreds of these little videos. So as we look at those even just those little things, so far the Lord's just opened the door for that. We have some grant money to do the videos. We had just the support group greeters have been phenomenal. And that, by the way, is one of my favorite parts about working with MACHE. The people you get to meet in this organization, the families you get to meet, it's incredible. So for me, at least, that's just one of the benefits of connecting and being a part of it. But it's also the future of MACHE. It's these millennial homeschool families that have a whole different vision for how to homeschool than the Gen X folks do. And we still have our pioneer generation hanging around. So getting to meet David Watkins, my predecessor, what a joy. This is a guy I've appreciated for 15 years who has just been given words of wisdom and encouragement. So at least for me, between me and the Lord, and I don't know if you've noticed this in those little intro things from the executive director, but it's all for the glory of God. We are doing a work with our kids that's a movement. It's as much of an education movement as it is a political movement. But it's a movement of the spirit and the faith. It's families deciding to follow the Lord in their homes and to raise their kids in the way that they should go, which is a command of the Lord. It's something we should be doing. So for me, that's one of kind of the future of MACHE really is in the hands of God, in the hands of these families that want to serve. And we're trying to follow that versus plan for it and say, here's what we want to do and where we want to go. We want to be responsive and go where the Lord leads and where the needs are, and to have a group of wonderful people that are willing to just do that and buckle down and get that work done. So, and then we can hand it off to the next generation and they can do the same thing. But I think God's been doing a work in Minnesota for 30 years and it's going to keep going. So we're picking up where the last generation left off, and we're going to carry it forward and hand off a healthy organization to the next generation. At least that's my prayer. It's my hope.
Amen. That's what we're all praying for. So any last things you think of that people would want to know since you've taken over the executive director position? I think I want folks to know and understand that MACHE is there to serve them, and we are there to help. So if there are resources that you as a homeschool mom or a homeschool dad wish you could see, or if there's speakers you want to see at the convention, we do not have offices. You're looking behind us at the MACHE offices, right? So, and my phone just rang, so sorry about that.
But the dog hasn't started barking, so
No.
My dog always snores, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So we really are a group of families that are trying to just take some of our extra time and give it back to an organization that's blessed us. So I want people to know that, because I think that is there room for you to volunteer? Absolutely. Like contact one of us and we'll find a spot. And if the website thing doesn't have a volunteer job posted, but you still want to give some time, I just want people to know that our gas, when we get resources that come in through the convention or through anything in the store or anything like that, we really put it right back out into the community. And that's our goal, to do that. So we want to serve and we want to be active in doing that. And we want to be mentoring and discipling the next generation of MACHE leadership. So we want to try to pair every position with somebody who's learning that position too, including executive director. We want to have people know how everything gets done so that when those handoffs happen, we can do it effectively. So I feel like I should turn the question around too and ask the two of you, are the things that you see happening in the future, or things that you've already seen in the last 6 months that you're excited about with MACHE?
Well, I know I can say this for both Molly and I, we're very excited to have you here and to be working with you. So that, and Stephanie too. So we're not going to leave Stephanie out. We sure love her. So we're excited to be working with the both of you.
Amen.
God has just blessed. Like, I wish we really do need to write down all the blessings that God did and showed for MACHE in 2020, because it was just amazing. You had touched on the not having the conference in 2020 and people donating their memberships. It's what kept MACHE going. It's what kept the doors open so we could continue to serve Minnesota homeschoolers. So I'm excited that we are doing these videos, that we, you and Karen Sonikson, who is the convention coordinator, actually convention director, so we can use those names interchangeably, but it is the director, are working so hard at trying to find a way to meet in person, you know, going with all the guidelines. It's a big job because it's changing every week, every couple weeks. And just when you think you may have an idea, you know, guidelines change. So I'm just excited to see what God is doing and how he's using MACHE to further his kingdom.
I totally agree. Like, seeing how God intervenes with this organization has been a discipling me, like, to realize, like, this is not our organization. God's doing something here. And when we have needs, we pray about it. And when somebody calls and says, hey, I got this thing, can you use that for anything? And we're like, yeah, thank you. We just prayed for that. So as people are responding to the Spirit, it changes how we can get things done. So, but that has been stunning, hasn't it? Like the last year in MACHE and what the Lord has done. And even the story of how I connected with you. Steph and I were wrapping up homeschooling with Katie, and we were like, you know, we want to give back. Let's put a little thing in on the volunteer deal and just say, we have more time on our hands. And I think sometimes, you know, retired or veteran homeschool parents, like, we still want to be connected. Like, there's a heart there, and we want to be able to just give a little something back. And so we didn't have any idea that this is what MACHE needed. But then on your side, here's somebody who has some administrative background, and you're like, here's somebody who doesn't, you know, can work part-time and can help out and wants to volunteer. And like, one thing led to another, but that's just one story. Like,
right,
stuff with the convention, there's a boatload more. A lot of our vendors and contractors said they would just work for free this year. Come on, what organization do you see that in, where people are like, we just believe in what we're doing, the money's not why we're doing it, we'll keep this organization running. So that's incredible. And that's not something that MACHE went out and asked for either. Like, it's just independent people saying, you know, I've talked to the Lord and I've prayed about it, and here's what I want to do. And then to see that be this consistent pattern across the organization, you're like, wow, this is really God's work.
Amen. It has been fascinating just to watch him work. When we were at one of our lowest points, and then we just give it up to him and he takes over, and just story after story, like with what Ruth said, we really should be writing these down for the next generation. So, you know, God is at work, and we are just so excited.
They did the Pioneers book that kind of told the story of the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So Molly and Ruth, you two got to start making that list.
Yeah. That's our next project, Ruth.
Oh. And then we'll start writing another book. Well, no, not another book, our first book. Yes.
Right. There you go. Well, thank you so much, Seann, for allowing us the opportunity to actually interview you. And I hope it wasn't too painful. We sure enjoyed it. And we are just looking forward to what God's going to do in the next few months.
Amen.